Some photos end up meaning more than the moment they were taken in. A soft smile, a hand on a shoulder, a slice of ordinary life. And later, those same photos become the thing families cling to, because they captured the last normal moment before everything changed. These stories aren't here to shock you, they're to remind us how fragile a normal day can be, and to honor the people caught in those last unknowing moments. Utah's fall afternoons have this softness to them. Cool air, warm colors, and that quiet sense that winter's starting to breathe down the canyon. On one of those October Saturdays in 2011, 15-year-olds Essa Ricker and Kelsey Webster headed into the Spanish Fork Canyon with Kelsey's 13-year-old sister, Savannah. There was no big plan, just pictures, jokes, and the feeling that this was a perfect day. Friends remembered how inseparable these girls were, three blondes brushing out hair of their faces, posing every few minutes, laughing at nothing. It was as normal and peaceful as a weekend gets. Later that afternoon, the girls wandered towards the train tracks that sliced through the canyon. People have been taking photos there for years. The leaves were skimming across the rails, and the light was clean and golden, and a westbound Union Pacific train was rumbling in from the distance. Naturally, the girls turned it into a photo op. They waved at the train, squeezed together, snapped a selfie, and right then, one of them posted this to Facebook. But what they didn't know, and maybe what they couldn't know, is that the Spanish Fork Canyon has a second parallel track, and while the westbound train screamed by only feet from them, its roar masked everything, the vibrations, the horn, and the eastbound train coming from behind. Inside that second locomotive were conductor John Anderson and engineer Michael Anderson. They rounded a bend and saw three figures near the rails. So Michael hit the horn, John yelled, and they pulled the brakes, but at 40 miles an hour, a stop like that takes nearly a quarter mile. From the cab's perspective, the girls didn't turn, they didn't jump, they didn't even seem aware that anything was wrong. They kept smiling, their hair whipping in the wind, thinking all the noise was from the train they couldn't see, not the one behind them. For 12 long, agonizing seconds, the crew watched helplessly as the distance closed. 12 seconds of knowing exactly what was about to happen and being powerless to stop it. When the eastbound train finally stopped almost a quarter mile down the track, John sprinted back. He found the two girls quickly and realized that they hadn't survived. And then he found Savannah. Severely injured and terrified, John knelt beside her and held her hand and told her everything would be okay. And for a moment, she relaxed. Savannah was airlifted to Primary Children's Hospital with major injuries and severe brain trauma. Doctors fought for 3 days, but she passed away on October 18th. Covered Bridge, the town the Websters had just moved to 2 months earlier, wrapped around the families in grief. Turquoise ribbons appeared everywhere, teachers brought in counselors, and people kept returning to that final image. 3 girls, smiling, unaware of anything except each other. And the train crew carried their own kind of grief. Michael went home and barely spoke. He later said the girls still appear in his dreams. He said those 12 seconds replay over and over, and that he has to carry it for the rest of his life. The families lost 3 daughters that day. The crew lost a piece of themselves, stuck with a memory they'll never be able to unsee. And that last selfie, 3 girls pressed together with a faint headlight in the corner, became more than just a picture. It's the final glimpse of who they were before the world shifted. It was a reminder of how easy it is to misjudge danger, and how quickly an ordinary moment can turn into something you can never walk away from. In late September of 2014, 5 Rutgers students decided to spend their Sunday in the woods instead of a library. One of them was 22-year-old Darsh Patel, a senior, an outdoors guy, and the kind of friend who was always down for a hike. Apshawa Preserve in West Milford, New Jersey is the sort of place that makes you forget you're only about an hour from Manhattan. Dense trees, quiet trails, a reservoir hidden in the hills. The plan was simple: hike a loop, take some photos, talk about school, and whatever came after graduation. The weather was crisp and comfortable, the leaves just started to change, Nothing about the day felt unusual or unsafe, just 5 friends enjoying the woods before the weather turned. Not long into the hike, the group passed a couple coming the other way on the trail. The man and woman looked rattled. They warned the students, "There's a black bear up ahead, you might want to turn back." The friends paused, talked it over, but decided to continue. Black bears are common in New Jersey. People see them all the time. A little further up the trail, they saw it, a large black bear, maybe 100 feet away, partially hidden behind a fallen tree. Darsh pulled out his phone and snapped a few photos. At first, it must have felt like a strange but manageable moment. A wild animal on a trail, but not behaving aggressively. And then the mood shifted. The bear began to inch closer, and the friends kept walking, hoping it would lose interest, but instead, it followed them, slow, steady, and deliberate, the distance shrinking step by step. When it closed to roughly 15 feet, someone yelled for them to run. The group bolted, and as soon as they did, the bear charged. In seconds, that quiet Sunday hike exploded into a blind sprint through the woods, branches slashing their arms, footsteps hammering the dirt, that massive bear crashing through everything in its path. As these 5 friends were running for safety, somewhere in the panic, Darsh became separated from the group. 2 of those friends reached the pavement first, stumbling onto the roadside and immediately called 911.
911, where's your emergency?
Hey, hello. I'm on Macoupin Road. It's 81 Macoupin Road. I believe I'm in West Milford or somewhere around there. We were hiking and we saw a bear, and we all started running, and it started chasing us. 2 of us are okay. 1 other person answered, but 2 were really close, and I'm scared out of my mind for them. I want to go back, but I'm hurt, and I don't know what to do.
You're hurt, you said?
Like, not badly. I just scraped my leg. It's nothing major, but I'm more worried about them. Can anyone get here anytime really soon, please?
Are you on a trail?
Yeah, we were on the trail.
Well, it's going to take them a while to get anywhere near you if you're on a trail.
No, but we ran one way for about 2 minutes, and we got onto the neighborhood. We're at 81 Macoupin Road, and you can go right into it from here.
You're 81 Max, and you're in Bloomingdale there.
Okay, Bloomingdale? All right.
Hold on, we'll have to transfer you. Westmore Police, Dr. Summers.
Hey, what's up? I just got told to call you because I'm not in Bloomingdale, but I need someone immediately to 581 Macoupin Road.
Oh, 581 Macoupin.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I read that wrong. The 5 was white now. Anyway, like, do you know how long it'll take or anything of that nature?
We'll send the officer now. What are you wearing?
Black shirt and basketball shorts. I'm sitting right on the curb of 581 Macoupin.
We'll have an officer come talk to you.
Okay, do you have any idea how long it'll take?
It shouldn't be too long.
Okay.
Thank you.
Moments later, the other 2 burst out of the trees, scraped, terrified, and out of breath. But Darsh never appeared behind them. They waited, they shouted his name, but nothing. And then that sick, hollowing feeling must have set in, the one where your brain starts filling in the blanks that you don't want filled. Search teams and wildlife officers arrived quickly. For nearly 2 hours, they combed the dense brush, the ravines, and the narrow side trails. About half a mile from where the encounter began, they found Darsh. They found his body in the woods, and the bear was still there. Officers said the bear circled 30 to 40 yards away and refused to leave, even when they shouted and threw objects. At one point, the bear even charged at them, but to safely recover Darsh's body, they made the decision to shoot and kill the animal. A necropsy later confirmed the terrible truth that the bear's stomach contained human blood and tissue, along with pieces of clothing matching what Darsh had been wearing. His phone was found nearby, and it had deep puncture marks pressed straight through the casing. It became official. This was New Jersey's first fatal black bear attack. For wildlife officers, this was a disturbing anomaly. And for those 4 college kids standing on a roadside, it was a moment they realized that their friend was never coming back. In the days that followed, investigators examined everything Darsh left behind. Among his belongings was his phone, and on it were 5 photos in sequence. The bear in the distance, then a little closer, then closer still. A wild animal closing in while 5 friends tried to decide how to seriously take it. Those images became the final record of his life. They weren't staged, he wasn't reckless. It wasn't some sort of daredevil stunt. It was just a student documenting something strange on an ordinary hike. Darsh wasn't provoking the bear. He wasn't taunting it. He wasn't doing anything reckless. He was a 22-year-old kid who misread a situation almost like anyone else would. Today, whenever people talk about bear safety on the East Coast, Darsh Patel's name still comes up. a reminder that even the safest seeming days can take a turn for disaster. In May 2016, 37-year-old Jia Lijin took a day off from his routine and did what a lot of people do when they need a break. He went to the zoo. He was visiting Xixiakou Wildlife Park in Rongsheng on China's northeast coast, a place known for sea views, rocky cliffs, and a collection of marine animals that drew crowds all year round. Jia walked through the paths like any other visitor, filming short videos on his phone, sending clips to friends as he went on. One of the park's biggest attractions was the large male walrus, famous for giving hugs to guests. Staff trusted him and visitors were encouraged to get close. For Jia, it was supposed to be exactly that kind of day, a quick escape, a fun photo, and a harmless story to bring home. When Jia reached the walrus enclosure, a low-walled pool where visitors stood only a few feet from the water, people were already gathered, their phones out, laughing as this huge animal surfaced and nudged up to the edge for pictures. Jia joined in. He took some video and then stepped in closer to snap a selfie. Witnesses later said that he turned his back to the water, holding his phone high so that the walrus would be in frame. That kind of shot you see everywhere online. A massive giant animal posing behind the camera with Jia standing beside it. And that's when everything changed. The 1.5-ton walrus surged upward, wrapping its flippers around Jia and pulled him backwards into the pool. At first, some people thought it was just another hug, something that the walrus had done many times before. But almost immediately, it became clear that this wasn't part of any act. Jia disappeared beneath the surface as the animal held him tightly, rolling and pushing him through the water. On the deck nearby, the only person who truly understood was her longtime trainer, a man named Duan. He saw the struggle and he didn't hesitate. He sprinted forward and dove right in. The poolside went from noisy to panicked in seconds. The staff rushed over with poles trying to hook either man in and pull them towards the edge, and from above it didn't look like a violent attack. There was no teeth marks, no strikes, just an enormous animal clinging to two men with the strength that no one could break. But underwater, that distinction didn't matter. There was no air. The walrus's weight and the movement kept them from reaching the surface. By the time the staff got the walrus under control, it was already too late. Jia and Duan were pulled from the water without signs of life. Resuscitation failed. The tourist who'd wanted a fun photo was gone, and the trainer who jumped in without a second thought was gone too. The news traveled fast. Chinese media reported that Duan had cared for the walrus for years, raising him from the time she was young, and co-workers described him as quiet, patient, and deeply devoted to the animals in his care. Two families were grieving. One for a man out sightseeing on his day off, and one for a trainer who died trying to save a stranger. In the days that followed, a short video began circulating online. Jia at the enclosure earlier that afternoon, laughing, chatting with a friend, filming the walrus bobbing in the water, just a normal vacation clip. Nothing ominous, nothing foreshadowing what would happen. And that's what makes this one so hard to sit with. There was no taunting, no stunt, no one trying to prove anything. Jia trusted the staff when they treated the walrus like a gentle attraction. Duan trusted his instincts when he dove in after him. Both of them acted from something simple. It was connection and the urge to help. The park compensated Jia's family and later tightened its safety rules. But for the people who actually knew these men, the story isn't about policy, it's about two lives. One enjoying his day and the other trying to save another, ending in the same heartbreaking way. Today, when this incident comes up in conversations about wildlife selfies and zoo safety, it's often framed as a cautionary tale. Even when no one means harm, not the visitor, not the trainer, not even the animal, the line between harmless and too late can be far thinner than it seems. On August 20th, 2022, 30-year-old Andrea Mazzetto and his girlfriend Sarah Brigante headed out for a quiet summer hike. They weren't mountaineers or thrill seekers, just a couple who liked being outdoors together. The plan was simple: take a trail up to the Alternato, a rocky overlook above the town of Rozzo in northern Italy. It was the kind of day people post to Instagram without thinking. There was blue skies, green hills, a narrow path curling along the mountainside. Andrea and Sarah stopped often to take photos and short videos. Two people in love, sweating a little, laughing a lot, and clearly happy to be exactly where they were. For them, it was just a beautiful afternoon in the Alps, nothing more than that. And by early afternoon, they reached one of the Alternato signature spots, a grassy ledge with a sheer drop on one side and a panoramic view of the valley on the other. The kind of place everyone stops, a little intimidating if you look down, but breathtaking if you look out. Naturally, they did what almost everybody does up there. They took a selfie. Andrea held the phone out, Sarah leaned into him, the mountains stretched behind them, and in the photo, they're smiling, they're relaxed, they're flushed from the hike and completely at ease. Nothing about that image hinted at what was about to happen. A little later, still standing near the edge of the ravine, Andrea's phone slipped. Maybe from his hand, maybe from his pocket. It doesn't really matter. One moment it was there and the next it was bouncing towards the cliff. And in that split second, he did what almost all of us would have done. He reached for it without thinking. There was no stunt, no posing near the edge, no reckless moment, just a reflex. Andrea lunged after the phone, he lost his balance and went over. Sarah could only watch as he fell more than 100 meters down the cliff. In a few seconds after he went over that edge, there was only silence. Then faintly the sound of rocks and loose dirt shifting below. Sarah froze, then started screaming his name to the ravine, hoping for an answer, but it never came. When it was clear he wasn't going to call back, she dialed for help. Because Alternato is so remote, rescuers couldn't reach her instantly. Alpine teams, firefighters, and helicopters were dispatched, and from the air, they eventually spotted Andrea's body more than 100 meters down the rock face. There was no movement, and there was no chance that he survived that fall. His body was recovered by helicopter and brought back to town. The casual weekend hike that should have ended with dinner plans was now a police report, a rescue recovery, and a call to a family who thought their son was just out enjoying the mountains. Up on the trail, Sarah was left with something impossible to reconcile. A handful of photos and a video from earlier that afternoon, including one perfect selfie, and the reality that she just watched unfold moments later. In the days after the accident, Sarah did something that is hard to fathom. She posted that selfie to Instagram. She captioned, "Our last damn photo together. You will always be with me, my little bear." Later, she called it their cursed photo, not because of the image itself, but because of everything that followed. A simple snapshot became the picture everyone stared at while trying to understand how a life could change in a single second. Andrea didn't die doing something outrageous. He reacted the way almost anyone else would, reached for a falling phone. And that's why this story sticks with people, because the danger wasn't in some wild decision we'd never make, it was in an everyday reflex. For Sarah, that picture will probably always hurt to look at, but it also holds the last honest record of who they were that day. Two people happy to be together in a beautiful place, unaware that a tiny, ordinary moment was about to draw a sharp line between before and after. On April 28th, 2023, Foley Beach, South Carolina looked exactly like the kind of place you'd want to get married in. Ocean breeze, soft light, and a small crowd of people who genuinely loved the couple they'd come to celebrate. The bride was 34-year-old Samantha Miller. Friends and family described her as pure love, the kind of person who brought peace and laughter into every room she walked into. Her older sister said that she'd never seen Sam's eyes shine brightly as they did that morning, getting ready in her dress by the beach. The groom, 36-year-old Eric Hutchinson, a former college football player who, as his family liked to joke, had finally met his match. They'd been together for 3 years, and everyone agreed they just fit. The ceremony was small, joyful, and uncomplicated. Vows in the sand, photos by the water, a reception full of music, toasts, and a surprise mother-daughter dance to Just the Way You Are for Sam's mom. By the time the sun went down, it felt like exactly what it was supposed to be, the happiest night of their lives, surrounded by the people who thought they had all the time in the world. As the reception would die down, the mood shifted into that hazy, perfect phase where everyone's a little tired, a little emotional, and nobody really wants to leave. The DJ played out the last songs, people hugged a little longer, and outside, friends lined up with sparklers to send the couple off. Sam and Eric stepped into the tunnel of light, sparklers held high on both sides, guests cheering as they ran through. A photographer caught the moment. Sam in her dress, Eric in his suit, hands intertwined, both of them lit up with these huge, unguarded smiles. It looks just like the final scene of a movie where everything turns out right. After the photos, they climbed into a decorated low-speed golf cart with 2 family members and started the short trip back towards the beach house where they were staying. It was a local thing on Foley. Golf carts at night aren't unusual, and theirs was legal and lit for the road. Somewhere along that ride, Sam turned to Eric and said she didn't want the night to end. For her, the story was still unfolding. They made it barely 2 blocks. On that same road, a rental car was coming fast behind them. The driver, 25-year-old Jamie Komorowski, was later found to have a blood alcohol level from more than 3 times the legal limit, and data from her car showed that she was driving about 65 miles per hour in a 25 zone. There was almost no braking before impact. That car slammed into the back of that golf cart so hard that it threw the cart more than 100 yards down the road, and it flipped several times. In an instant, that quiet street was filled with twisted metal, shattered glass, and pieces of what had been, minutes earlier, a wedding send-off. Samantha was mortally injured. Eric and the others lay scattered in the wreckage, badly hurt as sirens finally began to cut through the night. Neighbors on the beach started hearing the sirens around 10 p.m. and they didn't stop. They kept getting closer. Inside one nearby rental house, Samantha's family was winding down from the reception, taking off shoes, getting out of their dresses, replaying moments from the night. Her sister, Mandy, remembers texting Sam and Eric and not getting an answer. Then, hearing the sirens.
All of a sudden, within 10 minutes, not even, we started hearing a lot of sirens. Fire trucks, police, everything. And I just said, something happened to Sam. We're just running down the street towards the scene and all the lights and just screaming Sam's name over and over again. It was, when you think of it, it's really like a really bad movie.
And what they drove up to, what she called later, was a real-life nightmare. A crushed golf cart, debris scattered down the road, flashing police lights, turning everything blue and red. They started yelling Sam's name. First responders were already there working on the victims. Eric and the other passengers were badly hurt, thrown from the cart, suffering broken bones and internal injuries. Samantha had taken the worst of the impact. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Eric was rushed into the hospital in critical condition. Doctors found multiple fractures, 2 broken legs, damaged vertebrae, along with a brain injury and internal bleeding. Over the next days, he would undergo several surgeries just to stabilize him and give him a chance to heal. At some point in that blur, hospital staff handed Eric's mother his wedding ring and a plastic evidence bag. The same ring he'd put on his wife's finger only hours earlier. She later wrote, Eric lost the love of his life, trying to put into words the thing that everyone was feeling. Back on Foley Beach, the officers at the scene noted that the golf cart lights were on, and it was legal to be on that road at night. The newlyweds hadn't broken any rules, the other driver had. The police reported that the 25-year-old behind that rental car was unsteady on her feet, slurring, and smelled strongly of alcohol. She nearly fell during sobriety tests, and later blood work would show that she had a BAC of more than 3 times the legal limit. She was arrested that night and charged with reckless homicide and multiple counts of felony DUI. For Samantha and Eric's family, though, that legal language didn't change the reality. One couple had left the wedding reception in a golf cart, and only one of them was coming home. In the days after the crash, one image kept showing up everywhere, in the news reports, on social media, on fundraiser pages, that sparkler send-off photo. Samantha and Eric hand in hand, running through the tunnel of light. Her dress catching the glow, his face turned towards her, 2 people who look like they've just been handed the rest of their lives. For her family, the shot is almost impossible to look at and impossible to let go. It's the last time she saw her exactly as she was, joyful, unguarded, completely unaware of what was coming. And for Eric, it's the moment right before everything split, before and after.
I think about that night every single day. In the last moments I had with Sam on the golf cart, she told me she didn't want the night to end. And I kissed her on the forehead. And then the next thing I remember is waking up in the hospital. I see my mom's face, still wearing the wedding dress from the night before. And I knew instantly. And so I asked for Sam. I knew she wasn't there. I wish more than anything. It was me instead of Sam. I wish I died that night. So she didn't have to go alone.
As the legal case moved forward and the driver eventually pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 25 years, Samantha's family started speaking out about drunk driving, not as a statistic, but as the thing that took their daughter. Their sister said it's not a mistake, it's a life-changing event. That photo has become a kind of warning and a memorial at the same time, a reminder that you can do everything right, get married, ride home slow, sit next to the person you love, and still have your whole world wiped out by one reckless decision someone else made. And for everyone else who sees Samantha's smile frozen in that frame, it quietly asks the same question. How many lives could be left intact if one person, one night, chose not to turn the key? When you step back and look at these stories side by side, they come from different places. A canyon in Utah, a forest in New Jersey, a zoo on the coast of China, a cliff in the Italian Alps, and a wedding night in South Carolina. Different lives, different moments, different kinds of endings. But the thread running through all of them is quieter than the tragedies themselves. It's that split second before everything changes. The moment captured without anyone realizing that it was the last one that they would ever get. Essa, Kelsey, and Savannah smiling on the tracks, Darsh taking pictures of what looked like a distant bear, Ja turning for one more selfie with an animal he thought was gentle, Andrea holding his girlfriend close on a cliff that he thought was safe, and Samantha running through sparklers on the happiest night of her life. None of them knew what was coming. They weren't doing anything reckless or outrageous. They were just living, laughing, and documenting a beautiful day. And that's what makes these stories so heavy. How normal those final moments were. How familiar they look. How easily any one of us could have been standing in their place. These photos weren't meant to be final frames. They just became that. So as we honor the people in these pictures, maybe the only thing left for us to do is to treat our ordinary moments with a little more care. To take the photo, to live inside of it too, and to remember that sometimes that last snapshot of someone's life looks just like any other, right up until the second everything changes.